And hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pumpkin Copter Cast, the only video game show. So today I'm joined yet again by Chris Chipman, aka the Chippa, the host of almost as many podcasts as the McElroy brothers.
Fantastic.
And today we are bringing a bit of a recap from recently having happened to PAX East.
That's correct.
So you told me prior to the event that this was yours first PAX East.
Yeah. I had never been. Surprised that I had never been, but I hadn't. And the last couple of years, with kids and family getting into Boston to do anything like that and having the extra money for the ticket or knowing in advance you want to go is kind of a hard thing. So I just happened that a follower of mine on Twitter, Reed D, who's Mr. Fantastic, he goes by, had ended up getting a job working for or volunteering for TakeThis.org's booth at the diversity room at PAX East. And so he had some spare passes and sent me a message and said, hey, I really like your shows. I've been following you for a bit. And I think, as a parent and as, it's real hard to get to a thing like this. So I'd like to give you passes for Thursday and Friday to go. So that's how I ended up there. And I'm very much indebted to him. And when we get into this a little bit, I met up with him the first day I was there and we got to do some things together. So thank you, Reed. And I got to meet you as well, Tyler, there. Our second time meeting as it was.
Yes,
And you had your awesome Infinity Gauntlet. And I don't know if you posted pictures for the people on the show to see, but tell them a little bit about what you were dressed up like. It was pretty cool.
Yep, so this is started as far as the previous PAX South. There's this one of several podcasts I listened to called My Brother, and Me, an advice show for the modern era about the three McElroy brothers who give advice that no one should ever listen to, ever. And they're known, as many comedy people of that sort are known, for creating various bits in their episodes. And one of them was due to the frustration of the lack of Little Debbie oatmeal cream pies in their vicinity. Griffin McElroy proposed the creation of a theoretical Big Debbie for making big snack for big boys, spelled BOIS. And on Twitter, I suggested to Geo the Bio, the person responsible for making the cartoon interpretation of that bit, that I should cosplay as Big Debbie. And they basically said, yeah, do it. And the following weeks were spent acquiring the costumes and the appropriate snack cakes. And I just decided to make that a recurring character at every convention I go to.
I like how Big Debbie wears the Infinity Gauntlet.
That was a flourish I decided to add.
It's fantastic. Snapping out half the snack cakes in the universe in one fell swoop.
Yes.
So, what days did you go to PAX, Tyler?
I was fortunate because I was able to get originally Friday and Saturday, and because my brother has been going to them far longer than I have, he was able to get me a Saturday pass in addition to the Friday and Sunday passes I bought. So I was able to go for 3 of the 4 days.
Oh, so you get more than me. I was there Thursday, Friday. So I don't know. What do you want to do? Talk about some of the stuff we saw. Maybe see if our favorite things there kind of fell in line. Maybe each take one back and forth or something like that.
Sure.
All right. How about do you want me to start because I was there Thursday? Or
Yeah, it sounds good.
all right, sounds good. So Thursday again. This is the second con I've ever been to, and I know that's surprising, but you know, throughout college, I didn't really have time. And before college, they didn't really do much in the way of things like this around here. I was talking to my brother Movie Bob about it. He met up with me each of the 2 days. And I was like, I'm standing outside in line on Thursday waiting to get in. And I'm thinking back to being like 9, 10 years old and walking around the mall, and like the Suncoast Video in the mall, like low lit, dingy background light, or the Newbury Comics, around the corner from the mall before they were like really bright and flashy and redone. Um, you kind of have to meet up with those people, of like the counterculture, type of people, like to watch a cool anime or find a cool old Godzilla movie or basically just anything geeky, even video game related. It was kind of looked down on. And we didn't really have as much of the reach of the internet, even though it was there, to kind of connect us and get us together to stand outside of this giant expo hall where I had just gone to the boat show they did there a few weeks, maybe a month, maybe 2 months prior, and to see this filling that place even more than that acceptable type of event. Just to be surrounded by people that were all there for the same reason. And you'd have people from all walks of life, right? All different, um all different types of sexuality, all different types of race, all different types of this, and we all like the same thing. And even if it's not necessarily the exact same thing, it's represented. And I thought that was really cool. And I was telling Bob about how you know it made me really happy that we were unified in that way and that they did something like this. And I felt the same way going to Aresia, which that was just last year. That's the Boston Sci-Fi Convention. And that's the first con I had ever been to. And it was just amazing. And I met similar people, but I get there, wait in this giant line, walk out into the expo floor, and I was just amazed. I was amazed at how much was there. I didn't know that the tabletop and comics, or that the non-video game side of it was as represented, and that made me really happy because I love D&D and I love tabletop games, and so we got to play a whole bunch of new games and buy a whole bunch of new games as well. But when I first get there, I met up with Reed, who gave me the ticket, and he said, "Oh, come over to the Dwarven Forge booth." And did you make it by a Dwarven Forge at all,
I
Tyler?
don't believe so.
So they make large scale models of the actual like castles and dungeons and things for playing games like Dungeons and Dragons. So they instead of it being pen and paper drawn on a flat surface or with a map um, map blanket or tabletop or whatever, they're fully modular and you can set them up however you want to represent whatever you've written into your story. And they're crazy expensive, but they were running a one-off D&D game, so we got to go and play with like the top tier stuff that they sold with a game pre-set up by their head craftsman who like made all the stuff, and he was the dungeon master, so that was super cool. And outside of that, I got to run around and see a lot of games, so I figured I'd talk about one that I saw, and then can kick it off to you. I saw a game where the people who made it actually got in touch with me on Twitter after I said, "Hey, I'm going to be coming out to PAX." And this is still kind of a new thing to me, people that like want to see me. So I thought that was kind of cool. But they said, "Hey, we made this game called Tribes of Midgard." They're this company, I forget the name of the company, but look up the game Tribes of Midgard. It's a kind of like a 2/3 view, cell shaded. It feels kind of like hack and slash in the way of in the vein of Gauntlet, kind of similar like multiplayer, but also kind of more in the Diablo and games of that nature. But it's all Viking and Norse mythology, and you're basically fighting off this giant that's trying to take over the land and destroy your city. And what I played of it, it's amazing, and I can't wait for it to come out. Again, that's Tribes of Midgard. They reached out to me, and I went and checked out their booth, and I loved it. And I'm thinking of having them on my show, so that'll be pretty cool. So, did you check that game out, Tyler?
I do not think I heard of it when I
Oh,
was
cool. We'll have
at
some
PAX.
cool. I like being able to show people new stuff because they were kind of shoved over in the corner right around the tabletop games. So that was why I was surprised I even stumbled by them. But go ahead. What's something cool you saw or some cool experience you had?
Let's see. Well, I could go on. The first game I got to sit down and play during my first day at PAX was Summoner's Fate, which is like a tactical game wherein like you move a certain amount of spaces in a grid-based top-down style.
Yep.
But the shtick of it is it's a deck building game where you like get, or each round you get certain cards that do a certain effect in a radius, so it requires you just to be aware of just how many spaces are between you and the enemies, and that the enemies can walk up to you and smack you around, and you don't have a whole lot of HP, so it's really just about maximizing each turn. Like you'll launch a projectile that does 1 damage, and it summons a squirrel that acts as a controllable character that can do another damage, and then it ends up you hit the guy, he turns the faces, and like one hit KOs the squirrel, but his back is turned, and they can't counterattack if their backs are turned. It starts simple at first, just because I was playing the demo version they had on the show floor, but I can see once I give the full game out, it'll right proper challenge me.
Awesome. I like games like that. Is it a Steam kind of thing or is it on Switch? Like
Thank, Thankfully, have all of the many of the leaflets they have.
yes, I got my leaflets here too.
It is slated for PC, Mac, iOS, and Android.
Awesome. That sounds fantastic.
Yep. Let's see.
Um, you going with another one?
Yeah, and as for gaming related experiences as opposed to playing games, I noticed that a friend of mine, Greg Haynes, who's one of the higher ups of the Able Gamers charity, was also there in the convention center's diversity lounge. And some of you may know them as singing the praises of the Microsoft's Xbox Adaptive Controller, which is, for quite a few people, revolutionary piece of technology. And it was nice, since I hadn't talked to him in large part since I interviewed him a year-ish prior, and he was one of several people I was able to add to my signature list. And and what I didn't notice is that in the booth right next to him, my brother was also helping out in one of the booths next to him of the PMS clan.
Yep.
And just their blurb on their website. The PMS clan is a video game community committed to breaking down walls, stereotypes, and boundaries for women in gaming. It is our mission to provide everyone of all ages, genders, and backgrounds a safe, positive, skill building gaming and industry experience. So it's just a group for a group for formed so that anyone who joins it can engage in the community gaming without, having to sift through the garbage fire that is a sizable portion of community gaming on the internet today.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think the diversity room is an amazing thing. We spent a lot of time up there, and kind of went around to all the booths, and it's awesome to see all of that representation there, and to see what to see that, you know, there's just a place to go to feel accepted and to have people looking out for you instead of it, you know, just all being, you know, the show floor is kind of in your face, you know, kind of a thing. You know, it's marketing, whereas this is like, no, here's a community. Here's where your community is. Come here. And I thought that was really cool.
Yep.
So a thing I stumbled upon game wise, I don't know if this was when you were with us or not, Tyler, or when we had split up, but I was walking around, we were heading back towards the tabletop area where they had all the people playing Magic up the back, and this guy's walking by our group and must have heard us talking about who knows, probably Final Fantasy or something like that. And he said, oh, you guys like RPGs? My son made an RPG. You should really come check it out. And I was like, oh, yeah, that sounds great. He goes, no, please really come check out my son's game. He's been working on it for 7 years, and you guys sounded like you'd be interested in it. So we went and checked it out. And from what I did some reading on it, and I guess he started making it, or he's done mods to the RPG Maker thing that came out a while back. But it's kind of in that late Super Nintendo, early PS1 range of 2D JRPG kind of style games. It's called The Great Gaias, and I have the thing for it here. Haha. The name of the company is Horizon's Edge Gaming. It's just this kid and his friend. And outside of farming out some of the sprites and things, they've done all of it themselves. And when he started describing it, I don't really have time in my life for a game this big. I love RPGs. Final Fantasy VII, actually Final Fantasies 1 through 7 are kind of my favorite games of all time from a different time in my life when I played a lot of those. But you know, the way he described it, he goes, you know, people are logging in on Steam on this and logging 65, 75, 100 plus hours on this. And I go, holy crap, dude, you're a young guy. You made a 100+ hour long game. Like, that's impressive. He says, yeah, you know, and I didn't want there to be just, you know, 3 or 4 different classes of characters you could play. So there's 17. And on like these side things, you can have multiple towns that you can come and like be in charge of like the military and the goings on there. And then you've got people that are there like doing work. And I go, dude, this game sounds amazing. I have to play it. And so I got a discount at PAX on the download code for it. Because I think it goes for like 25 or 30 bucks on Steam. And it's an incredibly impressive game. I love the fact that like your hit points and things are done with D&D style dice rolls. Was a cool addition. The fighting is, you know, old fashioned but very very detailed. There's a lot of stealth involved already in the, you know, hour and a half played. I was really impressed, and I think that everybody should at least check it out and play a demo or give it a look, because, you know, this kid put a lot of time into this game, and I hope more people play it. So there.
Okay. And game I was excited by because of the people I realized were attached to it was I made my way to the Wonderling booth, and who did I happen to see but Alex Fossiani and Gerard Khalil of That One Video Gamer, and I realized that Alex happened to have been the chief and I believe sole writer of the game. And the thing about this game is you play as this little yellow, I want to say, vegetable thing that looks like what if a Goomba had Kirby arms. And,
oh, awesome.
Yep, and the thing is like the minion of the bad guy, but he's brought to life with the ability to jump, but he can't stop. It's runner-esque in that he can't stop or change directions unless he bumps into a wall. So it's about really about timing the jump timing the jumps and learning what spots will allow you to get to the next section of platformings and, collect because of the type of games it's referencing to is, all about collecting the sweet, delicious collectibles that drive people like me bonkers. And yes, I had a chance to play the story demo and the demo of the bonus levels they had, and I'm particularly looking forward to it because they mentioned that they they intend to release it on every system they can, but they intend to start with the Switch, as that was the system they seem to have built their demo on.
Oh, the Switch just makes me so happy. I saw so many good games for the Switch. What was it? A booth I was particularly impressed with, and again, you guys are going to hear us talking about, and I'm sure it's the same way for you, Tyler. A lot of the indie game scene because, Sony, Sony had their awesome, booth for their whatever Zombie Game 93 or whatever they have coming out, where they had people in zombie costumes, reaching out. It's like, all right, this is impressive, but I'm not here for that. I want to see what the little guys are making. And there was a game for the Switch that had the most impressive booth just in how they had it set up and how they wanted you to play. And there was nothing all that flashy about it. It was called, is it Graveyard Keeper? Is that the game? Is that the title? Have you seen this one? It's either Graveyard or Cemetery Keeper, but
Yeah,
they actually
Graveyard Keeper, I believe.
They actually had
I remember what you're talking
caskets, and you laid down in the casket to play the game on Switch, and I'm like, that's just such a cool little addition to something completely off and different. They had all the VR booths that you're walking by that look like just rooms full of people doing something wrong that they're ashamed of, like from a futuristic Blade Runner kind of society, which, to each their own. It's not my thing. I want to play 2D side scrollers, and I stumbled upon a game called Freedom Finger. Did you see this one, Tyler?
I saw it. I do not think I got a chance to play it.
Oh, so Freedom Finger. And again, it's a lot of the ones we've been talking about already are in the family friendly vein. Freedom Finger is not. Freedom Finger is a particular type of game that I am completely obsessed with, which are old fashioned Gradius and R type style side scroll and top down shooters. And what they did was they took that and put it in a hand drawn kind of cartoonish aesthetic, not cell shaded, but like a almost comic book or hand drawn, like Earthworm Jim kind of look is the way I'd explain it. And it's a hand flipping the bird flying around. That's a spaceship. And it shoots, a laser or whatever, but it can also, and this is a cool addition that I've never seen them do, it can also punch and it can reach out and grab the ships. And when it grabs the enemy ships, whatever power up they had, whether it's spread or laser or heat seeking missiles, it squeezes the ship and makes it do its special attack. So it's got a very fun, very fast paced, stuff flying all over the screen thing going on with really funny voice acting that, they make fun of you, the Grim Reaper makes fun of you when you die and all this other stuff. And I liked it so much that when I came back the second day, everyone I was with, I brought by to see it again. Because it made me smile. It made me laugh. It was just a happy, fun little game. And I can't wait for it to come out. Apparently they're going all platform as well. But it was just a wonderful game. I really liked it.
And let's see. Another game that caught my fancy that I believe was near or like within proximity of the PAX Rising booth was Panzer Paladin.
Oh, awesome.
Panzer Paladin with the 8-bit aesthetic, kind of like in the similar vein of Shovel Knight, where it's like 8-bit styles, but it has the benefit of using the technology of today. You play as this woman with a grappling hook, and the thing is, you hop into this Gundam-looking mech. And one of its claims to fame is that you get a variety, like all of the weapons you have like a degradation element to them, so you constantly have to beat up other enemies to get their weapons, so you'll have the offensive edge, and you can also throw them as projectiles, and some of them have special abilities, and just, I don't know, Shovel Knight, ever since Shovel Knight comes out, just really solid looking 8-bit style games that control like a game made today have really gotten me. And just because, as someone who is like drip fed raised on things like Power Rangers, the idea of someone in a flamboyant costume getting into a robot and wrecking anything and everything will just get me every single time.
Absolutely. They could just they could even just change it the tiniest bit and I'd buy the next one.
Yeah.
What's that old Dana Carvey joke with the old guy talking about, oh, you don't need to get a child, you just need to get an old person. It goes, it's just the same amount of stuff, except they've lived their life already. Buy me that useless piece of plastic. You can tell, no, I don't have that one already. That was Megator. Megator has an index finger pointing like this. Megatai is like this. That's how you know. That's awesome. I always liked that joke. You guys aren't going anywhere. We're staying home and watching Pooh Bear. Anyway, that aside, so I think you and I actually ended up meeting up at the Feral Frontier booth, right?
Yes, Feral Frontier. Previously at Boston Fig Fest.
So how would you? So it's interesting. How would you heard of Feral Frontier? Was it from that?
Yep, I got to play it, and I had the pleasure of being able to interview the Feral Frontier people a few months back, and when I mentioned that I was going to be at PAX East this year, they messaged me, and I decided to check it out. And well, I didn't get to play it at Boston Fig. I did get to see other people playing it quite a bit, and I can say with a bit of authority that the game was already solid then, but but in terms of just like visual polish, they really brought it to here during PAX.
It's awesome. It was like fate that you were at that booth, because I was looking for you and I was looking for Feral Frontier, and I spent the whole day before looking for it because I think it is one of the guys that made it named Ken.
I believe so. Yeah.
So Ken, a kid I went to high school with knows him, and he was like, "Oh, if you're going to be at PAX, check out Feral Frontier. My friend is one of the people that made it." And so I'm looking around and it's not coming up on the schedule. It's not coming up on the app. So I couldn't find it. So you finding it's like, cool, I found Tyler and I found Feral Frontier. And you're right. I never saw it how it was before, but the amount of visual polish, it falls into that, like, what if somebody made a game, like a late SNES or Sega Genesis, style game, but with all of the things available at their disposal today. The game is just beautiful. It's at a really high resolution. It plays great. I love that it's that side scroll, Bubsy, Earthworm Jim, kind of thing, but it has a deep RPG aesthetic going on with it that I really thought was cool. That action RPG like Zelda kind of thing. And it's just a fantastic, strange little game, and I can't wait to own it. I thought it was great.
And let's see. And in addition to the new ones, many of the people I've both interviewed and run into at PAX's past have made return at this PAX. Favorite, something that had many players on it throughout the weekend, was Bombfest, made by a
Yes.
friend of the show, Zach Fierce, and one of the darlings at Boston Fig Fest, in which you play as these little wooden figurines that look like they belong with sets of Lincoln Logs, and you hurl bombs at each other. But because they're legless wooden figurines, your mobility is very limited, so it's all about the timing.
I've played that
And
one. That game is fantastic.
yes, and it's one of the solidest party games. Like, if you boot it up for the first time, after every round, you unlock a new type of bomb that you can use in future rounds, and it's an ideal pick up and casual play party game. And Zach Pierce, the man behind that particular curtain, was very happy when I told him that Gerard and Alex were there, because they recently, a few months back, they played the game with Jesse Cox on his reoccurring multiplayer mayhem show, in which Alex Faciani, if you ever decide to look up the video, pretty much loses it, even though he wins a majority of the rounds due to the bizarre AI of the player 4 of the game. And yes, I was able to give him the heads up, and I believe he got to say hi to them at least once during the big old weekend. So
Yeah, it was a big old weekend. It was crazy. I back to the tabletop and board game thing, which kind of falls into something I like, and it's not necessarily into video games, but just a cool little aside. Um, the folks from Cyanide and Happiness, who make Joking Hazard, and also the webcomic Cyanide and Happiness, and Jason Anarchy, that's the name he goes by, Jason Anarchy Games. They make a game called Drinking Quest. Have you ever heard of this?
I think so.
So I was my cousin was part of the Kickstarter for it, and I went to my sister's wedding in Cancun over the summer, and they brought it, for us to play around in the hotel when we were at night, after hanging out doing the wedding stuff during the day. And they're both big into D&D. And so this game is like D&D light. It's like D&D if they turned it into a party game. So it uses all the rules of D&D. You still roll, initiative and everything else, and you have a character sheet, but it's pre-rolled, pre-designed, and the events of each scenario are in a deck of cards. So even though you might have played this scenario before, it's all drawn at random what the next thing that's going to happen to each person is going to be. So you go around in a circle, and each person gets to be the dungeon master to the other person that's playing, and you go around. And it's really funny, and it's incredibly lighthearted. It's not, going for the Cards Against Humanity level of vulgarity, even though there's a place for that. It's just more drinking puns, it's beer puns, stuff like this. And it also comes with rules to say, hey, yeah, we made this to be a drinking game for adults, but you don't have to. You can make it do something silly, like stand on one foot and recite the Pledge of Allegiance or something like that, and then you come back to life, and stuff like that. So it's really lighthearted, and I love it. And I'm talking to the guy at the booth, who I figure is just a guy hawking it, and I said, yeah, my cousin did the Kickstarter, and I really love the game, and it'd be really cool sometime to meet the guy that designed the game. He goes, oh, that's me, I'm Jason. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. And so I bought the next two versions of it, and he signed them. So I thought that was cool. And apparently he's got something big going on in the summertime, so I might end up having him on for an interview as well. And then I got a signed print drawn for me on the spot from the guys at Cyanide and Happiness for buying something from Joking Hazard as well. So that was a cool, those happened like right back to back. But anyway, something more from you. What else you got?
So the next game that is the strongest in my memory is the sequel to a game I beat recently, the made me the angriest the game has made me in quite some time is the, the sequel known as Super Meat Boy Forever.
Oh boy.
Yep. So anyone who played Super Meat Boy knows that game will just, it'll just, just smack you down. And so there's quite actually, despite the fact that it's a sequel to a super tough platformer like Super Meat Boy, Forever actually has a bit of difference. So I kind of immediately thought of you and Sarah because in the previous game, Meat Boy was trying to rescue his lady love Bandage Girl, but in this game, Meat Boy and Bandage Girl have started their own family in the form of this like small cubular baby known as Nugget. And Meat Boy's arch enemy, Dr. Fetus, has kidnapped their child, and once again, they have to go through hell and back in order to get their little darling. And the difference, whereas Meat Boy was a challenging, but in terms of design, like simple platformer, Super Meat Boy Forever is an auto runner, and which some people have expressed hesitancy about, but having played a bit of the demo, I can say it still has that Meat Boy flavor of tough obstacles and extremely precise platforming. And something I appreciate is that you can actually punch and kick the enemies out of the way now, which I feel like makes you feel just a bit more prepared for the horrors that await.
Yeah, a well done auto runner can be great.
And something on a brief tangent is that I recently acquired one of their Penny Arcade pins, which features Meat Boy, Bandage Girl, and Nugget. And something I have learned when I'm not doing this podcastery is I am a teacher of the very young people. I've learned that kids really love Meat Boy and Bandage Girl and Nugget, especially Nugget, if only because she's just like a tiny red cube in bunny pajamas. I think it's probably just because they're simple but instantly noticeable designs.
Right, exactly.
So even though they have no idea that those characters come from a franchise of games that can punish the best players. And I also
I
got
love nice punishing side scroller.
yes. After finally beat the main campaign of the game of Super Meat Boy last week after pretty much 8 years of trying and failing.
Oh Jesus. Wow, congratulations.
Yep, and at times like this I'm very glad that various stress-related heart problems don't run in my family, because they probably would have made themselves known then.
Yeah, that game is brutal. I can't say that I've even made it halfway through, but I love it. I love it, love it, love it.
Yes.
Oh man, so as you probably notice, my daughter's Yoshi has come along for my time here, and that's because I wanted to plug Yoshi's Crafted World, because I didn't get to play it at PAX because, like I said, the bigger companies, they really make you fight for your time to spend time with them. But man, what an adorable booth Nintendo had,
Yes.
all themed over this game.
I got to play that on Saturday.
Oh man, and so for people that don't know, Yoshi's Crafted World is in a similar vein to Yoshi's Woolly World, in that it's a side scroller, kind of using the same gameplay aesthetics of the second Yoshi's of the Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island. The eat the things, shoot the eggs, play as Yoshi. And what they've done with the aesthetic on this one is everything looks like it was done as like a high school theater program, cardboard cutout, just cobbled together like a diorama that a kid would make, kind of a thing, and complete with the world being able to flip in certain instances so you can see behind things and seek things out. It's really simple to play, but it's incredibly adorable and it's incredibly dialed in. Nintendo has polished how to make platformers to the nth degree, and they never stop surprising me. So I only got to see people play it at PAX, but the day that it was available to buy, I bought it, which I think was during PAX. And I've been playing it pretty much every day since. And my daughter loves it. She calls him Sushi. Play game with Sushi, and she loves it so much that in order for me to be able to do things, I eventually have to shut it off. So I found a Let's Play, a good Let's Play where there's not some, jerky kid commenting over it and screaming about how Yoshi is, whatever vulgar name you want to put in, where it's the good kind, or it's just someone playing the game. And she loves it. She just sits there dancing in front of the TV, and whenever Yoshi beats a level, yay, he won the race. And it's so cute. And so she was playing it, or I was playing it, and she's potty training. So she was learning how to use the potty, and she finished, and she was so proud of herself, and she high-fived me, and she said, okay, now I'll go get my Sushi, and he's going to go to the potty. And she brought Yoshi in and sat him on the potty. And I thought that was adorable. So then he could watch the game and do his business. But yeah, so that's Yoshi's Crafted World is just an absolute dream.
Yeah,
it's so wonderful.
I got to, after waiting in line a fair bit on Saturday, that was one of the games I got to play, and a thing that just got me right away is that, like in Yoshi's Woolly World, Yoshi is joined by his adorable potato sack looking dog Poochie, and
yes, I love Poochie.
Poochie apparently is a mom or dad now, as you also have to release these rescue periodically throughout the various levels. There's Poochie's 3 Poochie pups, which usually is which can sometimes tie into the flipped level style of Yoshi's Crafted World. And what got me the most is that at the booth they had one of those giant spinning statue things that had Yoshi playing with all 3 of Poochie's puppies, and just as someone who has learned as I've gotten older, learned to appreciate like aesthetically cute things like that. I'm just looking at all 3 of those little Poochie babies, that just got me right in the heart.
I love it. And Nintendo for everything, for how hard of a road it's been for them in sticking to their guns. That booth represented everything that they just do right. Because there wasn't a person in there. It's not like their booth wasn't crowded, right? There's not a person in there. It doesn't matter if you're like the most hardened, walking by that Nintendo booth, you just kind of go, oh, look at that. Look at that. I whatever they have in there, I want to play it. Just, can I walk in? And like, no, you can't go near Yoshi. You have to experience Yoshi. All right. And it was cool too, because they had it like blocking people from coming in and out. Oh, you got to wait for it to spin. It's gonna spin, and it did. What other games did they have in there, Tyler? I didn't get a chance to.
They also had the ports of some of the various indie games they announced on their Nindy Showcase, which I played Katana Zero, which I believe was made by at least some of the people behind Hotline Miami, and it has the same one-hit kill style, albeit more in the side-scrolling style, and they also have the port of the 1930s-esque indie darling that has become a runaway hit since its debut of Cuphead, which comes out.
Yes.
Which comes out in roughly 3 days on the Switch.
That will be the first time I own a copy of Cuphead when it comes out on the Switch. I love that game, and I need to have it.
And yep, played the Yoshi game, Katana Zero, and Cuphead. And since I got the tickets, I was able to get some adorable Yoshi's Crafted World cutouts. And because I have a my Nintendo account, I was able to get some like 2 exclusive Nintendo style pins. And
Yeah, I got those too. They're awesome.
oh yes, that was a fun time. And once I'm able to, I look forward to just looking forward to feeling my heart melt playing Yoshi's Crafted World.
Oh, and it will, dude. That it's just it. Sometimes games don't have to be crushingly difficult to just be an absolute joy. Every level introduces a brand new play mechanic. You know, you use the existing things in a different way. It's just a very creative game, and I guess there's like 40 some odd levels too, which is massive. Especially for the visual aesthetic. Like you know, they just jammed that game full of everything, and I love how the Switch and I think the Super Mario 3D World games introduced it. They use a great use of focus to play around with what's in the because you even though it's a side scroller you play around a lot with what's in the fore and far ground, and you move in and out of that a lot, so they do a good way of kind of letting you know where like flying enemies are on the screen by if they're in focus or not, you know. And I really like that, and I remember some of the games. There were some games on the Super Nintendo actually that tried to play around with a lot of that, like Turtles in Time, the 4th
Mm-hmm.
Ninja Turtles game, did a lot of near and far ground enemy placement where they used pixelation to kind of fake you into it, but it was, you know, supposed to be a focus kind of a thing. And it's cool to see. It's cool to see a company that, you know, started in a particular medium kind of use the full breadth of their visual and game design abilities to just um, enhance that rather than, you know, try to go further with it. Like we don't need Yoshi's VR world, even though I'm really excited about Labo VR, and I was kind of bummed. Well, if they had it to play, they didn't have it there. But that's the kind of thing that excites me about VR. Have you played Labo at all?
Um,
I think I asked you about this on the
yep,
last one.
I have yet to be able to get my hands on
It,
Nintendo Labo.
it's just wonder. I mean, the Lego builder in me just loves it, and the fact that they've intertwined that with a video game just gets me even more. Which means that I'm gonna have to do the VR one because I love the idea of something that gets me involved. You know, involved in building the controller, involved in building the contraption. I think that's fantastic. But you know that I wish they had some of that at PAX East.
Yep. And keeping on with the keeping the idea of adorable dog things in our head, another
Yes.
game I'm staring at right now is a little business card from the booth containing Fog, spelled PHOGS, in which you play as 2 dog heads connected, cat dog style,
Oh, that
and
game was great.
yep, and you use their ability to stretch their individual necks and grab things with their teeth to solve a variety of very odd puzzles. My goodness, is that game strange.
It's incredibly strange, and I loved it, but it is weird. Unique. Unique. We'll use unique.
Yep, and I like the fact that, since they're like limbless snake body style dogs, you have to figure out a way. You have to navigate the level layouts, like basically platforming without the actual jumpy bits of platforming. And again, because it's like two-headed, derpy looking dogs, it's just like you're pleased with the visual aesthetic while at the same time racking your brain on how to
Why? How?
progress with its puzzles.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
Let's see. A game that was a surprise, a very good surprise for me, was Beatdown City,
Yes.
which has the visual styles of something like River City Ransom, but with a surprising and surprisingly effectively almost tactical RPG style, in which you're placed in a beat 'em up style scenario, but instead of just typical side-scrolling punch 'em ups, you have to select a series of moves that uses a pool of skill points that periodically refills, and sometimes you have to. And like a lot of skill point style games, you have to gamble. Where are you just going to use a bunch of cheap small moves to do tiny damage, or are you gonna like risk using some of the expensive but more damage-inducing big moves? And something I've liked is that in order to actually hit them, your character has to actually be close to the whichever bad guy you want to beat up. So if you use a powerful move and you're just hitting dead air, you have to pretty much avoid the enemies and wait for your skill points to fill back up again, which I thought was nice.
Yeah. It's cool to see people still making that style of game as well.
Yeah.
And adding something to it. Like you said, they're making a lot more skill rather than just blind button mashing.
And another game that I thankfully got to play at the last day of PAX was, I suppose, like, probably the answer to what an Indiana Jones would look like if it had a more traditional platformy game back in the day, was Sydney Hunter and the Curse of the Mayan, in which just a regular old archaeologist who looks slightly like the one of the main characters from Spelunky finds a hidden Mayan temple in which one of the main bad guy steals the pieces of the Mayan calendar and wants to freeze time forever, some such nonsense. And it's unlike some of the other, it's a very, gameplay wise, it's pretty simple, 8-bit style platforming, dodging, using your whip, but I don't know, clearly the polish is there, and I always like those types of games where you're just platforming, exploring, and getting treasure, and boss fights with Mega Man style patterns.
Yep.
That's
Classic.
let's see what else. And getting less games I played moment, just again being able to meet some of the people I interviewed on person, like at the indie mini booth on Saturday and Sunday. I got to meet Brian Wilson, the main person behind Where the Bees Make Honey, which is I won't give too much away, but it's basically, in his words, it's a game that says, how different, moments of your childhood look when you've had a few decades to think about them, while also having, a bunch of puzzles that rely on turning turning the level in 90-degree increments and shifting the perspective.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
And a game I didn't get to play, but I look forward to in the future, was Swim Sanity by Decoy Games, a game that has gone on to since win quite a few awards. And for the -7 people not in the know, you can play up to 4 players in a scuba diving style environment, and either you can have a multiplayer battle arena style, or you can play a cooperative campaign. And I, I think it's the combination. It's just the underwater aesthetic and just the fact that it does 4-player competitions very well. But it was packed pretty much anytime I stopped by the booth. Yeah. Let's see what else. What else can I remember?
I'm always a fan of a good pun, and there's a company again that this was a for every video game I saw, I saw board games too. There was this company called Wild East Games that was hawking a bunch of different games, real fun, quick play tabletop games. But they had this one. The title of it is Pie, Pie, Rats of the Carib Bean, and it's a deck building style game where you play as a bunch of rats that are stealing pies, basically. And the card they were giving out as people passed by, that the idea was they would hand out a card that you get to keep. There's one of the actual gameplay cards from the game, but it was a pig. It was a pig holding a bunch of spears, and it was Brit Pig Spear or something like that. It was like a Britney Spears pun, and it was hysterical, and all the like power ups on the card. And I'm like, all right, I got to play this. And we sat there and played the game with them for like 45 minutes and fell in love. And so we bought it, and they were super cool and showed off some of their other games. And because we had bought this in the expansion, they threw in a couple of their other games as well. And they were just really cool people. They were, they said, they got that Wild West kind of thing going on. The entire booth was people in like Wild West get up garb. And then the girl that eventually sold me the game had one of the best main characters from the original Kingdom Hearts. Why am I'm really tired right now. What's the name of the kid in Kingdom Hearts?
Sora.
Sora, there we go. Best Sora cosplay I've ever seen. Unbelievable. With the hair and everything. It was so cool. And the key, of course. But yeah, that was I highly recommend checking out Wild East Games. That was really cool. And even though, it's great for me to talk with somebody about games and not mention a single game on here that falls into the popular nowadays aesthetic, right? There are some great first person games in the world, but every single big company is making a first person shooter, right? It's just what they do. And I'd rather see the Yoshis and things like that. But as a huge geek and a huge horror fan, there was a game, I think it's called Dead by Daylight. Is that the name of it?
I think so.
They have an Ash Williams, Bruce Campbell from Evil Dead patch.
Yeah, I heard about their adding his character.
And I stood around watching people play it, and it just made me smile. It's not like I didn't want to get in line and play it. I've played that game before. I'm sure the idea of getting to play as Ash would wear off, and it would just be another game like that after a while. But I got to say, that made me smile.
And a game I've played the demo of a few times before now, but I'm always happy to play it again to keep my enthusiasm going, was the Angry Video Game Nerd Adventures, which PAX South, they announced they were remaking the first Angry Video Game Nerd Adventures game, and the engine they use to make the second, and they are bundling the two together.
Oh, awesome.
And it's very good. All the levels are designed of angry video game nerd style levels of games that Mr. Nerd himself has played and criticized in the past. There's a Castlevania level. There's one based off of the Silver Surfer game, and it's no. In addition to having like the angry video game nerd aesthetic and even some of the characters, it's very solid. We're like Mega Man levels of like solid gameplay, and I had the extremely good fortune of being able to meet Mr. Rolf himself on believe the very last day, and that was a sight to
Oh,
behold for
that's
me.
awesome. That would have been super cool.
Yep, and yep, and I believe that also Screenwave Media also has the game Eagle Island, which is I believe a procedurally generated Metroidvania-ish game in which the shtick of that is that you have a bird companion friend who is able to gain various abilities depending on magic feathers, like an ice power, a fire power, a double jump, things of that sort. And again, just very solid game. Another game I look forward to playing when I'm able to.
Yes, that's always the old caveat, right? You got to adult now. Ugh, no time.
Unfortunately.
Well, Tyler, I want to be able to. I've exhausted my list of stuff, and I want to give you the chance to hit, another point or two. But I really appreciate you having me on. But tonight, I'm sorry I had you have to wait so late. But my daughter was not having sleep tonight. But now I'm really sleepy, so I'm gonna be fading pretty soon. So what's your final thoughts? You got anything else on PAX?
I'd say out of all the games I played that I'm looking forward to the most, I'd say it's currently a three-way tie between Wonderling, Panzer Paladin, and Super Meat Boy.
Awesome.
So, yep, and since it's an abhorrent hour where both of us are right now, we will call this particular episode of the Pumpkin Copter Cast to a close. I would like to thank Chris the Chipman for joining me today and giving his thoughts on his first ever PAX going to.
It was awesome. I'm gonna go every year now.
Yep, and yes, if any of the negative 17 of you have enjoyed watching this, feel free to like and subscribe. You can follow me on the Twitters at tgorman83. Yep, if for those of you who have been following me since the beginning in the incredibly ancient year of 2016, and you don't have to, but if you want to give me some monies, you can go to my Patreon at patreon.com/thepumpkincoptercast, and I will be posting some Patreon exclusive posts very soon in the form of rough draft sketch versions of the various thumbnail art made by Pesky Plumber or AutoCat64 on the Twitters, and since he's responsible, and while the rough sketch versions of his posts will be Patreon exclusive, in those Patreon posts there will be links to his Patreon and DeviantArt, so you can check out what he is all about. And yes, and just speaking of the Twitters, I don't know, I'll probably be posting the various bits of swag I got from the various developers so I can keep all of their games in my brain until they're actually released into the world.
Right, exactly.
And yes, this has been the Pumpkin Copter Cast, the only video game show, and I hope all of you have a gourd day.